let's dive into the bit of the film right now from this Miami Dolphins Buffalo Bills game and talk about the corner rotation. We're going to start talking about some coverage numbers overall in terms of talking about the Bills' pass defense, what they were in this game. So the Buffalo Bills, like I mentioned earlier when Rob was on the show, 54% one high shell. So that means you have a single high safety pre-snap. 54% usage rate against Miami. On the year, 32%. 61% middle of the field close coverage. So that means single high coverages, cover one, cover three, things like that, where you have a single high post safety. 61% usage rate for that against Miami. 36% on the year. 39% man coverage rate against Miami. 25% on the year. 42% blitz rate for the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins on the year. 19%. 100% snaps and nickel. That's not too crazy. Again, majority of every year, these last several years, the Bills have been a nickel team at over at 90% usage rate. They're usually top 1, 2, or 3 in the league. So that's nothing crazy. And also a 28% stacked box rate against the Miami Dolphins. So stacked box is 8 defenders or more in the box. 28% against the Miami Dolphins. On the year, 14%. So they doubled their usage rate for stack boxes in that game. So that puts into perspective a little bit in terms of what you saw for coverage. You saw a lot of single high looks in coverage from the Buffalo Bills. You saw a lot of cover one. You saw a lot of cover three. And then after that, you saw some cover two. You saw some cover six. You saw some combo coverages. But a lot of what the Bills did was from a single high perspective. Now, whether that was just pure game plan in general, or the weather influenced things, or the run game started to influence things in the way that Miami was starting to work things, but you saw a lot more single high coverage post snap and then single high shells pre snap than you have traditionally on the year. Again, the Bills tweaked a lot of those numbers against the Miami Dolphins. But nonetheless, let us go into the film as I share my screen. We dive into the film. So again, this is Bills versus Dolphins from this past Saturday night. And this first play that I want to bring up here for you folks is Mr. Tre'Davious White. He's highlighted at the bottom of the screen. This is in the first quarter, 7 minutes and 50 seconds, 1st and 10, and he's in off man coverage. This is good coverage from him, but really a lot of analyzing what Trey has been and how he's playing and performing is kind of trying to track and estimate or guesstimate or analyze, how close is he towards being the Tre'Davious White of old? How is he moving? What does his knee look like? What does his lower body look like? How much stiffness do you see? How much fluidity do you see? How many steps is he using to break down? Little things like that to try and piece together just how healthy he is and if he's, kind of rounding back into form. But in this play, you're going to see a little stiffness to his movement and some shuffling of his feet to come back to the ball on this hook. But it's good seeing him engage in these natural movements again for a corner and in good positioning to make a play on the ball. So we're going to bring up this play. He's on the outside against Cedric Wilson, Dolphins receiver. And you see him. That's good coverage. Off man, little late throw from Tua. But watch as he starts to turn, he opens up the hips, and then he sees Cedric Wilson gear down. Cedric Wilson sinks his hips, starts to come out of his break. You see just a couple little extra steps. I don't want to say a hitch in his giddy up, but not just a bang, bang breakdown. You see that little extra hitch at the top right here, bang, bang. But again, he's in good position. He reads this route, drives on it, undercuts it, makes a play. I know in this game, Trey got beat on that touchdown to Tyreek Hill, which I also thought DeMar Hamlin could have potentially made a play on in the back of the end zone. He was right there. He just didn't get his head turned around. I also like the celebration with the sheathing of the sword from Tre'Davious White, so bonus points for that. And then he got beat in single coverage against Waddle, but that's going to happen. Like if you're in single coverage and press against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, again, two of the most dangerous receivers in the entire NFL from an athleticism standpoint, a speed standpoint, a technicality standpoint, in addition to how they're used. I thought Trey overall had a good game. Again, we'll show more clips as we start to go through, but I thought Trey had a good performance here in this game. Again, not the Dolphins' best receiver, Cedric Wilson on the outside, but he's calm, he's cool, he's collected, smooth in his back pedal, shuffle, read, see the receiver break down, come out. And then he gets the PBU. And a lot of it, too, with him coming back, you want him feeling confident in that knee. You want him feeling confident in his ability to perform. You don't want him second guessing and thinking like, is my knee okay? How am I playing? So on and so forth. So seeing him make a play like this and then a little confidence in the celebration at the end is legitimately a good thing for this Bills team. Second play for Mr. Tre'Davious White here. You see him at the bottom of the screen. This one is very nice. Press man versus Tyreek Hill. Also in the first quarter, 6 minutes, 27 seconds. You'll see him get his inside hand on Tyreek Hill to establish feel and leverage. And he'll use that to then get his outside hand onto Tyreek Hill, and he'll open up his hips to match Hill going inside. And then watch the play on the ball that he makes. He doesn't turn Tyreek Hill. You see this all the time when DBs, especially corners, try to make that play coming through the receiver and they reach around and you see the hand that's on the hip, they turn them too much or the receiver sells it a little bit and you get called for pass interference for turning the receiver. You don't see any of that on this play from Trey. So boom, there's Trey and press man again against Tyreek Hill, stud wide receiver, sub stud person, but stud wide receiver on the field. Watch him get that boom, gets that initial hand, and then so that's good contact. It's contact to the point that he's able to get a firm hand on the chest of Tyreek Hill to the point that Hill can't just chuck it. He has to legitimately try and swim this arm that Tre'Davious White has established inside. As he does that, you get a nice smooth turn and transitions it to getting the hand on the back of Tyreek Hill. Now he's got feel. He's got good leverage. He's able to follow and match Tyreek Hill and also see what's going on and read Tua or read Tyreek Hill while getting his eyes onto Tua, getting his eyes on the quarterback. And then this is the real nice play. Makes the play on the ball, doesn't come through or comes through the receiver, doesn't turn him. And what's also nice, look at Tyreek Hill. Doesn't complain, doesn't look for a flag. He knows that is just a good play by Tre'Davious White. You see a little bit from the end zone angle. Again, I'm going to show it multiple times, but you're not going to see the press piece. Boom, here we go. So here comes the throw. Trey's watching it. Get the good extension, hand through Tyreek Hill's hands. That's a big piece too. You want to get, when that receiver goes up, you want to get your hands right here. You're trying to jar that ball loose. You don't necessarily want to come over the top and chop. You want to get that hand. I mean, that can work, but you want to get that hand right through the ball. And if you go over the arms and you try and rip, that's a possibility, but you want to get that hand right through their hands, get it into the face, jar that ball loose. Tyreek Hill has really strong hands. He almost pulls this down, but Trey makes the play and then slams him down too. That's really good coverage from Tre'Davious White. Again, very encouraging. He is on an island here. If your knee is going to get stressed, if your body is going to get stressed, even if you're 100% healthy, this is a stressful coverage situation, let alone if you're starting to work your way back from injury. But that's what you get on this play. One-on-one, reads it. That's the real piece, right? Right at that 26-yard line. Look how smooth the transition. And I played in real time. Watch him get hands, hand, hip. Real smooth. Real smooth transition. Technical. Again, Trey was never the best athlete, never the fastest, never the most agile. He's technically sound. He's got good feet, good hands, good hips. He knows how to read routes. This is tremendous coverage against a receiver that can beat you at any point in time. And honestly, he did later in the game, but very good coverage from Tre'Davious White, just in and of itself. But again, especially if you're evaluating his health, this is very encouraging to see from him on the bottom of the screen there, just moving, functioning, living, existing in coverage. Again, against one of the best receivers in the entire NFL. Now, next player, we're going to move on to Mr. Kaiir Elam, someone who fans have been clamoring for in terms of getting more reps. And I want to start by saying I don't think Dane Jackson has been as terrible as a lot of fans are making him out to be. Even the Detroit game where he was getting burned by St. Brown, a lot of those weren't pure one-on-one coverages. They were zone coverages, and he was getting beat to the zone help part of the coverage. So it's not necessarily all on him. What's killing Dane Jackson has been his inability to make plays on the ball when being in position to make plays on the ball. And honestly, that's not even something that's unique to him. We've seen it happen to Taron Johnson. We saw it happen to Kaiir Elam in this game. But Dane has just been afflicted with this more than anyone else, where it just seems like he's in position and he just can't make a play on the ball. He can't get the pass breakup. He can't get the PBU, which, again, if you're looking at it on a yearly level, this may seem, a bit crazy considering what, you're thinking of him from the last several games. But amongst the 132 corners that have at least 20% of coverage snaps this year, Dane Jackson is tied for 9th in pass breakups with 9. Sauce Gardner leads the NFL with 12. So this is per PFF. So Sauce Gardner has the most PBUs, pass breakups, in the entire NFL with 12. Dane Jackson is at 9. And if he gets a couple of the ones that he's been in position for since that Detroit game, he's probably tied for Sauce. All he needs is 3 more. It's wild looking at that number considering his inability to make a play on the ball these last several weeks. But Dane hasn't been as bad as it may seem from an emotional standpoint these past several weeks. But with Kaiir Elam, you do get obviously the athletic upside. You get the speed, you get the size, you get more of the strength, you get a little bit more arm length, you get more scheme versatility. And he showed it in this game. I don't think Kaiir had as strong of a game as the number. I know a lot of people are throwing out the numbers and being like, 18 coverage snaps, and he was only targeted 4 times and only 2 receptions. Judging a corner purely off of how many times they were targeted doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. And same thing with giving receptions up. Maybe the throw was bad. Maybe the quarterback didn't read the coverage properly. Maybe that corner actually got beat, but pressure came from that side. So the quarterback was flushed and had to go to the other side. There's a variety of things that can happen. So just looking at it purely from a metric standpoint can be a bit misleading. But I thought Kaiir had a good game for the Buffalo Bills. I love this comment from Aiden. Aiden says, I'm about 30 minutes behind, but what a great guest. Absolutely. I'm excited when Aiden brings this full circle. Started from the beginning. Well done. Yeah, Rob was fantastic. I was very excited to have him on this show. But let's dive into this play from Mr. Kaiir Elam. So what I like about this one, Elam is up here at the top. And watch, I have it, freeze frame there. Watch the communication piece. You're seeing him communicate. You're seeing the hand signals. He did this multiple times in this game, owning his position, recognizing what needs to happen. Now, as we get forward, Sherfield goes in motion, and you're going to see Jordan Poyer. Poyer calls out the check. And so watch Elam. Elam goes from, again, he's not in a real press alignment, but he's also not in off, but he's close enough to Tyreek Hill to do something. But watch the change after the motion. You see Kaiir Elam come right up, and he's into that true press scenario. And this is the advantage of having Kaiir Elam. He's very comfortable in this world, and because of his speed and athleticism and strength and arm length, he can line head up on a wide receiver, and he can perform. Now, in this situation, Tyreek Hill almost has a 2-way go because it's not a completely reduced split, but because he's still inside the numbers, he has enough space to work outside. So he can work inside, he can work outside. So Kaiir lining up head up on him, he knows, okay, he could go inside, he could go outside, just from an individual standpoint. Now, if they're playing up scheme or what they've seen on tape, and they know like, okay, with this formation and this motion, I think this play, he's going to run this route. So let me play this anticipating that. That's a completely different piece. But nonetheless, what you're going to see from Kaiir on this play, again, press man comes up once he sees the motion from Sherfield. Jordan Poyer calls it out. Watch Elam. He's going to go with a 2-hand jam at the line of scrimmage, which is risky. If you miss with that 2-hand jam, you're off platform. You've lost leverage. You have the ability to get completely blown by. You have to rely on a smooth, fast hip turn and your ability to run with a receiver. Granted, Elam has the speed for that, but it's risky to go with a 2-hand jam. Elam does it with regularity. This goes back to the preseason. It's worked for him at times. He's also gotten beaten clean off the line when he's gone with the 2-hand jam and given up some receptions. So there is a bit of a risk-reward nature with the 2-hand jam, but you'll see him go with it because he's comfortable with it. And watch him as he makes a quick transition from the jam to running with Tyreek Hill. You'll see the fluid hips, you'll see the speed, and you'll see him run the route with Tyreek Hill. So a really good rep from Kaiir Elam here. I'm going to let it play in real time. Get the jam, just smooth. Also just calling it out. I know Dolphins fans are clamoring for a lot of calls in this game. I think you could have called this as pass interference because he does get there a little bit early, but they're letting these guys play in this game. And as a defensive guy, I'm fine with this being no call. Even if it went in Miami's favor, I like letting them play. But this is good coverage right there, right in phase almost this entire time. We'll look at it from slow-mo, right? So comes up, press man on the snap, goes for that 2-hand jam. You see him. Now, again, this is what I'm talking about. He's extended. So he still has a good base. He's not leaning forward too much. So if he misses, he's lost and he's got to track back fast. But goes with the 2-hand jam, gets both hands on Hill. Hill rips through. Look at the smooth step, crosses that left foot, that inside foot over his outside foot, and gets right upfield. He's in step. He knows he's got Poyer over the top, so he can afford to play in a bit of a trail here. He's got him, reads the hips, and this is the piece too. Watch the turn. Watch how smooth, and then meets him at the spot of the ball. He could easily, when Tyreek Hill makes this cut, he could easily, if he's not athletic enough and doesn't have the ankle flexion in order to pull this off, instead of, undercutting it and staying on Hill's hip, he could round this a little bit more. And if he rounds this a little bit more, it gives Tyreek Hill the ability to separate. And all of a sudden, you've got this space right here between defender and receiver, and it becomes an easier reception on this play instead of making a play on the ball like Elam does. So this is the good piece. Watch the turn at the top of the route. Stays right on him. Doesn't get too deep. Doesn't round it too much. He runs the route with Tyreek Hill. That is a very good coverage rep for Kaiir Elam. And yes, could have been, if it was called PI, I wouldn't be too distraught because I did think he got there a little bit early. But man, this was just a really good coverage rep from Kaiir Elam right there. I'll play it one more time in real time. Comes up, press man, two-hand jam, smooth hip. Good rep. Again, that's what you get from Kaiir Elam that you don't necessarily get from Dane Jackson. Not to knock Dane, but actually, honestly, even from Tre'Davious White, you don't have that length and that speed and that necessarily, athletic fluidity that you do with Kaiir Elam, with how fast he is and how good of an athlete he is. This is good coverage. And again, good recognition. And again, this ties back into what we talked about last week with what the Bills did against Miami in week 3, what the Niners did against Miami. You get that single receiver side, right? You get up and you press. And that's what they do. Two-hand jam, turn, nice fluid hips, run the route with and for the receiver, and get a PBU. Very good rep, very strong rep from Kaiir Elam on this play. Now we're going to go to another play for Mr. Tre'Davious White. This is a really good one. This is arguably my favorite play out of the clips that we're going to go through and look at here. This is 3rd and 2. 3rd and 2, I have Tre'Davious White highlighted at the top. He's in press man. He's in one-on-one on Mr. Jalen Waddle. You're going to watch him get hands on Jalen Waddle early and establish that feel. Again, this is something Tre'Davious White does all the time. Even when he jams, it's not a physical, jack up the receiver. He's looking to get hands so that way he can establish leverage and feel. This is a really strong rep. Again, 3rd and 2, press man. He gets hands on Waddle early. He establishes that feel. And then when he feels and sees Waddle break, he undercuts it. Something that we've seen him do a lot in his tenure. So on the snap, again, press man, head up, similar to what Kaiir Elam was on the previous play. He fakes almost like an aggressive jam when he takes that step up, but then he sits, gets his hands on Waddle. And look at the hand placement again. This is very similar to what we showed earlier in the press man rep against Tyreek Hill. This is Tre'Davious White. He's got that inside hand on the chest of Waddle. He's got the outside hand on the shoulder. He's not completely rerouting him, but this gives you feel. This gives you leverage. It also gives you the ability to control the wide receiver a little bit, right, and kind of dictate where they go and how they get to where they're going. But at the very least, it gives you that feel. Right? It allows you to sense and recognize, okay, they're going to break out. They're going to continue upfield. They're going to try and cut inside, whatever have you. When you get this hand position that Trey often does when he's really going, it gives you the ability to control that wide receiver. Waddle tries to get upfield. Trey lets off with the outside hand. He's still got the inside on him, feels him break, and then watch him cut underneath and almost gets the interception. Tremendous route from Tre'Davious White. We'll play it in real time. Beautiful. And again, this is 3rd and 2. This is what you want. That you can give no quarter. You can give no space. Teams don't always run routes to the sticks or right at the first down marker. It's 3rd and 2. Maybe they'll run a 7-yard route. Maybe they'll run a 10-yard route. But you have to limit the space because, again, this isn't crazy. This isn't rocket science or anything super hard. They only need 2 yards. So you're probably going to get a yard from at least someone at a 2-yard, a 3-yard, 4 or 5, somewhere in that area, especially to the single receiver side. This is an easy read for Tua on this play. I got man coverage. I'm going to trust my guy. I only need 2 yards. He should be able to win his matchup. He does not. Now, Waddle got Trey later in the game. Kudos to him. But this is a really, really good rep from Trey White. And not only is it a really good rep, again, it's encouraging. Just look at the body movement. This is a dude coming off a torn ACL. Look at the suddenness and decisiveness and the sharpness in his lower body. Bang, right? He's good. Comes out of it, gets hands on Waddle immediately for the reroute and to establish feel, establish control, starts running with him, feels him and sees him break. And then if you look, it's hard to see on the sideline angle, but as soon as Waddle breaks, watch Tre'Davious White's head. Watch him turn and look. He looks. It's tough because it's the white helmet on the white jersey, but he looks back, anticipating that throw. And that's also part of why he undercuts. That's a good, technically sound coverage rep from Tre'Davious White, which again is good in and of itself, but even more encouraging considering what he's coming off of. And like Justin says, a perfect mentor for Kaiir. Honestly, yeah, like Kaiir has physical tools. He needs to work on his technique and the way he approaches the game and sees the game and plays it, right? And I don't want to knock Tre'Davious White's athletic ability, but majority of his strength is in his mental game, his football IQ, and technique. Again, feet, hips, coverage recognition, route distribution recognition, route recognition as a whole, his hand placement, his ability to understand leverage, his ability to function in a variety of coverages and looks. Having somebody that technically sound is a huge piece to someone who's more of a raw ball of athletic clay like Kaiir Elam. So yeah, I think that's very well said, Justin. Very well said. Now we're going to go to another play for Mr. Kaiir Elam. Play towards the later parts of the game when it was a bit of a Christmas wonderland in Buffalo. I love this vantage point. Also, it's just cool to see. I don't have it from the Bills offense perspective, but like just to watch the amount of snow and how fast things changed from like green to being like 5 minutes of game time later, just looking like Santa's workshop was an awesome visual to see. So on this play, got Kaiir Elam highlighted at the bottom. He's in press. You also see some more pre-snap communication with Jordan Poyer, like we saw on his clip earlier. And you're going to watch him go for the jam, but he's going to feel Tyreek Hill not engage. So he's going to look into the backfield, and then he's going to see the blocker and he's going to see Tua. He reads the smoke screen and he undercuts the block and makes a play on the ball. This is a very heady, smart play. You see Elam with the arm extended there, communicating, knows what's up, saying, I got him. We got this. Now, you'll see the motion come. Poyer drops out. Elam is head up on Tyreek Hill, but he peeks inside, eye on the motion man. He goes for the jam, but Tyreek Hill backs off. So what does he do? Turns his head, and now instead of looking here at Tyreek Hill, he's got his eyes going this way. So he sees the block coming. He sees Tua starting to load up for this throw. So recognizes, again, everything here is scream and smoke screen. So he reads it, comes up, undercuts the block. And again, this is even like the play on the ball look. Like Elam is right there. Tyreek Hill still makes this catch. Like this is a tremendous hands catch. It actually works out for the Bills because he loses yards on this play. But the fact that Tyreek Hill comes down with this ball and Elam doesn't get a PBU is wild. But this is a great play. Like this isn't just athleticism and speed and scheme versatility and size and strength and all these physical measurables. This is a good heady football play. This is a good football IQ. You go for that jam and you feel that receiver back up. This is akin to a defensive lineman, rushing, and it's a screen for the offense. And he feels the offensive lineman just kind of give up too easily. So he backtracks like, wait a minute, is this going to be a screen? Right? You have that feel, that headiness, that football IQ. This is what it is for Kaiir Elam. Again, we saw him similar earlier in the game. Again, granted, it was in single coverage on the single wide receiver side, but he goes for that jam, the two-hand jam again. But instead of Tyreek Hill being here and in a route, he's backed up. So Elam's like, this doesn't make sense. Let me peek in the backfield. Oh, it's a screen, and he jumps it. He reads this before anyone else does. This is a tremendous play from Kaiir Elam. And, again, we've showed Trey White here. We've showed Kaiir Elam. To kind of round it full circle for these two, I think Kaiir Elam does deserve more reps. I think his play has warranted more reps. I don't think what he's played at, the level he's played at this year, I'm not trying to put like water on the fire or anything. I don't think he's had this all-pro flash and it's just like, man, we've got this stud on the bench. But I do think he has warranted more snaps with his play. You see the scheme versatility, you see the athleticism, you see the physicality, and you're starting to see things click more mentally for him. My biggest thing, though, is I don't think Dane Jackson is going to go away. One, I don't think he's played as bad as it may potentially seem he has. Two, the coaching staff has faith in him. Granted, they made a couple comments about CB2 and it being open and they're trying to lock that down. I think the Elam Dane Jackson rotation will continue, but against teams that have, maybe more athleticism or more speed, you will potentially see more Kaiir Elam. I don't think we're going to get to a spot where Kaiir Elam is the lockdown corner 2 and he's getting like 80-90% of the snaps. I don't think you're going to get to that level unless, knock on wood, something happens to Dane. Also, Christian Benford starts to come back. What does he look like getting into the rotation? He's had a very good year, especially considering what the expectations were for him coming into this year. So we'll see what happens going forward. But, oh, and good comment here from Pete. Pete saying Dane's a restricted free agent. They'll definitely tender him. They like him. And at the very least, he's very good depth. He knows the system. He's a good dude. Yeah, I don't see him getting away, especially for what he could be brought back and kept for. Kaiir Elam, long and the short of it, again, these plays were picked to highlight what he was playing with in this game. He also showed some good tendencies and coverage ability and zone coverage, ability to read the game and kind of space and leverage out routes in the route distribution. Kaiir Elam has warranted more snaps. I don't think we're going to get to the point where he's locking down CB2 just by himself. You're going to get some Dane Jackson. You're probably going to get some more Christian Benford at some point. They like him as well. And again, he's had a good year, but don't get that expectation in your head that just because Elam had a good game against Miami, he's going to be corner 2 going forward. I don't think we're going to get to that rotation piece based on how much the coaching staff likes Dane Jackson, has faith in Dane Jackson. And again, I don't think he's been as terrible as, a lot of the emotions running high would potentially suggest. Now, I mentioned Taron Johnson earlier. I wanted to pull out some plays for Taron Johnson because he had a couple that I just thought were absolutely tremendous. I put this one out on Twitter earlier. So this is in the red zone. This is 3rd and 1. You're going to watch Taron Johnson not bite on the play action, which is hard given the fact that it's 3rd and 1, right? And watch him get under this whip route at the top of the screen. The Bills are in cover 3, so his responsibility is to get to the flats. This is his spot right here, right? You're going to watch the run action as Tua goes through. Watch him not bite. He shifts with the motion. He's got his eyes in the backfield. He's reading. Again, now he's been pulled into the box, so he's basically a linebacker at this point. Reads the motion of Tua, and as soon as he sees Tua get back and get square to the line of scrimmage in his drop back, he immediately starts to get to the flat, and watch him scream to the flats and take away this whip route. And Tua's big thing, right, is his processing and having to go from Mike McDaniel schemes up a lot of things well for him. We talked about it on last week's episode, right? You get those windows where, it's designed where Tua 1, 2, 3 throw it to this spot. And more often than not, it's been like, oh, it's open, cool. And he just gets to throw it to a spot and it works. He comes out of this drop back and he's expecting Waddle to be open, and Taron Johnson takes it away and it leads to this sack. Credit to the defensive line, credit to Shaq Lawson and Ed Oliver for, causing havoc and getting into the backfield and this D-line as a whole. But this play only happens because Taron Johnson takes away that whip route up top. Immediately screams to it. Bang. Tua can't get to it. Stops. And then it's like, oh, let me go somewhere else. And honestly, everything else is covered up pretty well. That's great coverage from Taron Johnson. From someone who I still think is underrated on this Bills team and underrated probably nationally as well. He's responded well in coverage these past several weeks after having a couple rough man reps. And I know even in this game, Sherfield caught that one on top of his head. He didn't make a play on the ball either. Pretty, unfortunate. But nonetheless, a really good play on this one from Mr. Taron Johnson. Now we're going to look at another one from Taron. This play for the Bills defense. This one, again, high leverage situation, a 3rd down, 1 yard to go. Again, Miami loses yards on this play because of Taron Johnson. Now, if you watched the show last week, which I hope everyone did, Kendall and I diagrammed one of the plays that the Miami Dolphins love, which is, their RPO pass, but they can run it out of a non-run action, or it's not even a real RPO. They're just kind of simulating that action to use it to kind of trick the defense. But what you're going to get, you'll get some piece where this receiver, Jalen Waddle in this instance, runs some kind of seam. It could be a hitch. He could go inside. He could go vertical, whatever have you. But you'll get some kind of, seam attacking route here. You'll get a wheel, and then you'll get a slide route from the backfield. Now, it could vary. Sometimes, they'll vary who the slide guy is, who the wheel guy is, who the seam guy is, so on and so forth. And they can run it out of a variety of alignments and personnel. Miami really attacks with it a lot. But we get this look here. So here we have Mr. Taron Johnson in the slot. Points, and he calls it out right away. This is something that Miami runs a ton. Watch him jam. He gets that inside hand on Jalen Waddle to reroute a little bit, just affect him subtly. Rousseau and Edmonds are green lighting on Tua, but watch Johnson the whole way. He knows what's coming, and even as he's rerouting, his eyes are in the backfield, waiting for that slide route to come. And that slide route comes, and he attacks it forcefully. And look at the alligator roll at the end. Watch that spin and twist down. Beautiful. It's like a dragon screw in wrestling. Beautiful. But that's that alligator roll that's taught. Forceful tackle, drags him down. This is 3rd and 1. Miami loses 2 on this play because of the film study, the prep, knowing the situation from the defense as a whole. But Taron Johnson blows this whole thing the hell up. This is beautiful. And he does, again, 2 things. He gets that reroute on Waddle, comes up, makes the play. Really good game from Taron Johnson. Again, I know this was more focused on Elam and White in the outside corner rotation, but I would be, disappointed in myself if I didn't highlight some really good play from Taron because he flashed a bunch in this game. That's gorgeous right there. And I'm going to slow-mo that tackle. Coming down on Smythe, reads it. Look at that. Helmet to the outside, shoulder into the thigh, run through your man, alligator roll, bang. Beautiful. Last play I want to show for Taron Johnson here. Man coverage in the slot on Tyreek Hill. Nothing overly sexy to communicate on this one. You're just in a man scenario on a 3rd and 3 against, again, one of the most dangerous players in the entire NFL. Actually, probably should have had a pick 6 on this one. He only gets one hand on it initially, but he could have had it. Look at that. Lockstep right there the whole way, complete in phase. On the snap, mirroring him, Hill goes to the out. And watch because they know what Tua is, what kind of thrower he is, right? He doesn't have the strongest arm. In this instance, Tua has to go from the far hash to probably the numbers, right? So as soon as Tyreek Hill makes this break, Taron Johnson's eyes are inside to see what he's got going on from Tua. He sees Tua starting to load up. Again, you see the action. Tua is looking like he's about to throw this ball. So Taron Johnson gets hands on Hill. Again, it's under 5 yards. Shouldn't have hands on too physically while the ball is in the air, especially today's NFL. But refs were letting them play on this night. We talked about it earlier with the Elam play. And look at him undercut that. That's also a function of not thinking that Tua can layer this throw over the top of you or beat you with arm strength. So he undercuts it. That's smart because he doesn't think Tua can make this throw to this spot and laser it and layer it in there as well, either or. So he knows this ball has to come more on a direct line. So instead of riding out with it, Taron Johnson undercuts it. Oh, I kind of made an A there. Look how that worked out. Real great rep. Again, you're in single coverage. You're man, one-on-one. In a true 2-way go scenario, there is a multitude of things that Hill can do in this area. He can go vertical, he can go inside, he can go outside, he can run a dig, he can run a drag, he can run it out, he can run a post. There's so much that he can do. Also, you got to keep an eye out for, again, if they want to game this up and maybe one of these guys is coming on the slide route and this is their RPO look and somebody's running a wheel and somebody's running a seam, or he's running the wheel and he's running the seam. There's a variety of things that Miami can do out of these looks. This is a dangerous situation for Taron Johnson. And again, high leverage, 3rd down and 1. So you also can't give too much space because they only need 1 yard. He's on him the whole way. And Hill definitely has the speed advantage to Taron Johnson. A little more, maybe like a 3rd and 2. Just beautiful. Should have had a pick 6. And he's mad at himself. But McDermott gives him a nice little pat on the back. Good coverage, good route recognition, hand placement, feet, agility, speed, quickness. And then again, the IQ to undercut this. Oh, Bills had this several times, especially throwing to the right. Trey White did it earlier. Taron Johnson did it here, undercutting those routes and really trying to get underneath those receivers and take those routes away. Man, so, and Pete coming in and saying, this play by Taron was awesome. You knew getting the ball back there was great for us and bad for Miami. I thought they go on fourth there, and then he's talking about the first Taron play. That is, yeah, I second that notion. I thought when the stop happened, I thought, okay, cool, they're going to go for it. And they didn't. I was not, I guess not too surprised, but given their propensity earlier in the year, I wonder if maybe not succeeding on fourth down against San Francisco in a similar area a couple weeks ago, I wonder maybe if that got in McDaniel's head a little bit and he's like, screw it, like, let's not go too aggressive or in that perspective. But same thing, I expected there to be a fourth down attempt there, and there was not. Just a really great play from Taron Johnson. And again, this corner grouping, I think Taron Johnson often gets left out of it because he's the slot corner, but he's so important to this Bills defense, not just because the Bills are in nickel so much, but because of what is asked of him. He has to fit the run. He has to cover in man. He has to cover in zone. He has to tackle from depth at times. There's times where they'll ask him to drop as the deep half safety. Like, there's a lot that gets put on his plate, and he does a really good job. I know he struggled earlier in the year in man coverage, and he's had some issues with making plays on the ball this year where he's in position and guys are just making tackles and you're just like, or making catches and you're just kind of saying, what the hell? But he's a tremendously valuable asset and chess piece to this Bills defense. And so I know this was more focused on Kaiir and Trey and that outside corner rotation, but wanted to make sure Taron Johnson got some flowers for his performance in this game. And honestly, a strong performance in a game that they needed him to show up. You're going to get Hill in the slot. You're going to get Waddle in the slot. You're going to get those type of matchup advantages in theory for Miami. You got to negate and mitigate at the worst, mitigate that matchup advantage for Miami. Taron Johnson did that time and time again while playing, obviously, to what they schemed up and cooked up